KZ DQ6 the Letshuoer DZ4. I was not going to do a video for this, but I went ahead and modified my set because I thought it needed something, and it turned out I was exactly correct. This is not really rocket science, so it's not like a proud moment, but it turned out to be the case. If you want to win the Apple Band 8 Pro, which is supposed to be, according to price, a step up from the Performer 8 and is only released in China, comment below this video. You got to be a subscriber. Thumb up if you genuinely like the video, and this will be announced on Friday or Saturday. I got to start pushing out some of the ones that I said previously. This video is for the Band 8 Pro. Like I said, I'll give them away separately. So the Band 8, also the Performer 5 and the Band 5 will be going out. So this video is the Band 8. It's actually a really good set. This is Michael Bruce's video. I'm going to link to it because you can watch and listen to him, and you're looking at it in macro. Like you can see it very close up. It kind of helps. I'm a visual person, and also he knows what he's talking about. And the genre that is very weak for this set is a genre that he likes a lot, which is metal, which is the same genre that I thought it was absolutely chaotic with. So that's there. I'll link to that. If I don't link to it, please remind me below. This is the frequency graph. The green with the more energy in the upper mids is with the passive radiator in its stock form. And if you pull out the passive radiator and then you fill that hole with silicone, you have a little bit more bass and less upper mids, which is kind of crazy because the passive radiator doesn't make any noise on its own. It's reacting to the stimulating of the other diaphragms inside. Now let's take a look at how that works really quick. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and put up the border so you guys don't fall asleep. I think this set is similar to, in its good form, the Galileo, which is also a Letshuoer set, and also the Truthios Hexa, which doesn't make any sense, graph, and also maybe the configuration, but they remind me of this set when this is done properly. The scores in red are when this has been modified, 7, 6, 7, and 6. And when it's stock, it's quite poor in the low end 5. Mids are, upper mids are quite different, but I'll go with the treble and the mids kind of being put together. The treble is really poor in its stock form, stunningly actually, and it's greatly improved when it's modified. And then the resolution is also quite different because you're taking away a lot of distortion. Now, you can see the 3 dampening filters on the back of the dynamic drivers. Now this is how the passive radiator is fed. It's not directly getting a nice musical signal and then reflecting that. It's getting the back vent, essentially the leakage, the diaphragms moving forward and backwards on the front side, and that's creating pressure changes on the back. That is changing the volume and the pressure in the air in the entire shell, and in turn is stimulating the passive radiator. Now, the problem is, like I said before, that this should be sealed and closed. That should be really doing a one-to-one with the bass. But it's doing it with full-range drivers. Let me explain the problem with that extremely clearly to you. Anybody who's familiar with home or car audio, and I've seen this comments on forum by a person that used to work with 64 audio, and so he knows about earphones as well. Passive radiators have got to be in an enclosed space. That you're tuning that. And it's a one-to-one, it's a slave-master relationship. Hertz is a 3-step movement. The extension, the retraction, and the return to stationary is a single hertz. If you do that 100 times in 1 second, that's 100 hertz. You do that 5,000 times in a second, that's 5,000 hertz. Now, doing that with low frequency is, you've got to have a perfect seal. And in the low frequency, you can get, with a high X-Max type driver, a one-to-one with, let's say, 65, 55 hertz. The main driver that's connected, it's got the plus minus, it's getting the signal, is doing something, and this is copying that. As you move up the scale and you get into the upper mids, you start to lose the efficiency because this driver with no connection whatsoever is just reacting to other stuff. When you get beyond the mids, if you get to 500 hertz, you're not going to get this moving 500 times just like the other driver. That's why people don't use these for mids. This is used for bass. Now when you get up into the treble, it gets worse because that's moving at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 cycles per second. This can't do that efficiently, which means that your music file that is coming through your cable and is being played out of those transducers, and then the leakage is feeding to that passive radiator. I want you to pay very close attention to what I'm saying right now. If in a moment of the passage you're listening to classical music, and that moment, that 5 or 6 seconds, has a lot of energy between 2 and 4 kilohertz, 2 to 4,000 hertz, that is not going to come out, reflect, and go into the PR and be output by the PR at the same frequency. It's going to be slightly different because it's not efficient. It's very inefficient in that range, which means that it's adding distortion. It is a very stunningly poor design. It blows my mind. The biggest mind blower of all, on top of all of this, is that the back plate is actually open. I'll maybe put a picture up of that. So even the chamber that is controlling the passive radiator isn't sealed itself. So you're getting residual energy to feed it, and that energy is leaking out of the back of the cap. It is kind of mind-blowing. I can't believe it. I was going to skip doing a video, but this is so... Companies don't learn unless you tell them. And this is already out on the market, so anybody that watches my channel, I would recommend that you not invest. Michael Bruce said something interesting in this, and I'm gonna say that. Same thing. This is not even as good as a lot of stuff that you can get for $20. Because those sets at $20 are not adding distortion and inefficient sound reflection and a non-enclosed cavity. Not just the way the drivers are leaking, but that the back cap is open. When I did the video before, I thought, wow, this is really kind of crazy. I think I'm just going to move along. But when I changed it, it fixed everything. There's an extra driver in there that's doing stuff it shouldn't be doing, and removing that removes the fault, and then it's all okay. If you bought this set already and you have any kind of skills whatsoever, if you open the back of these caps, the driver that is the problem doesn't have any wires connected to it. So you don't have to worry about, I don't have solder skills. You don't need anything like that. You just need to heat it up with a heat gun and then pull the driver and block that vent. And you can have a set that on a graph actually looks better to me, and you are definitely not getting residual distortion from the back of 3 other drivers. That's kind of leaking out the back anyway and reflecting all around before it goes and stimulates the diaphragm. You're removing the problem. So if you bought it already and you're thinking, man, if you got any skills whatsoever, heat it up, pop the cap, take the driver out, block that hole, put it back on, and you've got a pretty good set that is in comparison with stuff like the Galileo and the Hexa, actually. So, oh, I hit 50K too. Thank you guys for the support. And I think I'll leave it at that. And Michael Bruce, remind me, if anybody sees where's the link for this video, remind me and I'll go ahead and pin this video to the top so you can take a look at it. Everything he says is tinted with his genre, which is metal, pretty much. That's one of my genres that I like. And it is really bad at doing that until you modify it. And the reason that it's bad is clear. Again, it's not rocket science. It's actually quite simple. What I think happened is that they put it together and they looked at the frequency graph and thought that's the target that we're going for. And there wasn't a lot of listening to it done. Because the graph looks fine, so what's the problem? The problem is that graph is partly based on harmonic chaos, especially in the upper mids, which is perfectly matching to me having issues with metal and vocals and guitar. It all makes sense, and it got fixed. And there's the video, and I'm out.